Hey guys, in today's video, I'll give you a quick primer on what Barista Fire or Barista Financial Independence is all about. In the same format as before, in what it is, who it's appropriate for, and finally, what I think the limitations are. Heyo, welcome back. Okay, so Barista Fire, what is it? Okay, I would call this yet another subset of the general fire movement, right? I'd actually call it a beginner's course in fire. Similar, very similar actually to Coast Fire in the sense that it's really just about financial independence in a form, not so much the RE, the retire early part, okay? And there's, I think, significant overlap between Coast Fire and Barista Fire, okay? It simply means that you no longer need a high pressure job, right? A lot of people in the fire community already make pretty decent money, and this is a step down in terms of the status of your job, right? So you reach it when you basically can survive perfectly fine with just a job that is very low pressure, like a barista. If you think back to the movie American Beauty, when the guy quits his job, the main Kevin Spacey's character, and he just decides to go flip burgers because that's the type of job that really for him held no pressure in his mind, right? It's just like when he was a kid, he did it, he earned a little bit of pocket money, and that was all good, okay? So barista here is not just about being a barista, but any low pressure job that you don't mind doing day to day, that's what it is. Plus, in the United States at least, having a full-time job that is low pressure, it's great for insurance purposes because health insurance is a big problem and one of those topics that the fire movement really has to really dig into because it's not very easy to get one without a regular employer. Okay, so who is it appropriate for? I would say this is for people who don't mind working so long as their whole life isn't consumed by the time they spend at work. Here's the thing about being a barista or something similar. The type of work just means less pressure, usually by a large margin, right? I'd say it's really appropriate for people who like the coasting type of mentality, right? If you really, really hate the word like sacrifice and fiscal discipline, then Barista Fire might be for you because it does give you freedom and flexibility earlier, right? In exchange for what, right? It's in exchange for the type of constant optimization that one might have to make if you want to, have the total flexibility of leaving the workforce entirely. Okay. So I think I've already alluded as to what I think the limitations are to this particular type of fire, right? Which is that you still do need to have a job, and usually these low pressure jobs, flipping burgers or doing barista or something like these. For instance, you're a natural salesman. Maybe you just want to do some retail job, right? Because these are not the type of jobs that will really, wear on you mentally. You could actually simply leave your, the moment you leave your work, you leave the workplace behind, right? But here's the thing, you're still missing some level of freedom, right? Because, it's not really retiring, right? Because you need a job to survive, whether you need it just for the insurance or you need it to actually supplement your living costs, right? Now, I want to make an exception, which is that if you really enjoy the low pressure job, right? Like if you are really into coffee and you just want to help customers and, see that smile on their face when you give them, a cup of coffee or something like that, this is a non-issue, right? But if you are saying, hey, I can simply exit a high pressure environment, go into a low pressure environment, it's an improvement, but I want you to understand the danger of it. The danger is that you're still attached to an employer, right? You're at the mercy of the employer, just like any other more, what I call a office corporate job, right? And I think this year, 2020, especially brings up a danger of this type of method, right? Think about what happened with the pandemic, right? If you were doing something retail or barista related, first of all, some of you might be considered essential, some not, but that's irrelevant, right? Most likely you're not doing that work right now, right? Because you're dependent on an employer, and the employer decides, oh my God, because of these extraordinary circumstances, we don't need as many people. all of a sudden you may have been let go, so you don't have that insurance, you don't have that supplemental income, and unlike normal times, it's unlikely that you can find an easy job to replace that with in this environment, right? Like, it's not like you were let go from one coffee shop and you went to another. That's not really possible. So in this sense, the lack of a bigger cushion, right? Because the reason why people go into Barista Fire, or they say, hey, I've reached Barista Fire, is because, you could survive on the salary of, a simpler job like being a barista. But would you actually physically do that, right? There's a difference between reaching the stage where you could survive being a barista and actually, changing your job to being a barista. I'm saying hitting the stage where you could survive is great, but going to be an actual barista is very dangerous, especially if you've had, if you've already spent several years building up a nest egg and just generally, like, you're charging ahead on your fire journey, you're simply moving step to step. This is the beginning course, right? And that's totally fine, but I wouldn't suggest anyone actually quit their jobs to be a barista, okay? I think that's just personal opinion. Obviously, I don't like half measures. I would just suggest sticking to the harder, more pressure job, if only to build up a larger cushion, right? Every step in the fire journey is, in essence, supplemental and incremental, right? So, if you already hit, you're coasting FI number and you're a Barista Fire kind of state, then just save up more, right? Like, say 5 to 10 years. You don't have to aim all the way for, a lifetime of not having a real job. Let's say if you could save up a cushion that you could last 5 to 10 years. That in itself is, I think, a good middle step, because it gives you fantastic level of flexibility. You could, wait out a recession, you could wait out a pandemic, and you could, spend that time to work on your 10,000 hours of, to reach expertise in a field that you really, really love, right? Because once you find that, like what I'm trying to do with YouTube, then the work wouldn't really feel like work, right? Like, I do this because every day I'm trying to be a little bit better, because it's fun for me. The moment it stops being fun, why would I do it? Because I don't really need it, right? That's what I want you to aim for. Okay, good day.